York City, 10 a.m. in London. I'm Matt Miller in for Vonnie Quinn with your Bloomberg Brief. Let's get you set up for the day. Futures pushing higher after U.S. stocks notched another fresh record high ahead of Friday's payrolls report. That's as the AI rally presses on, with Nvidia entering the PC market to challenge Intel and others, and oil also gaining as the U.S. and Iran clash near the Strait of Hormuz, with nuclear deals still in a deadlock. Let's get a check on the markets around the world. First off, Alice French in Tokyo for the latest in Asia. Alice?
Good morning. Yes, the AI theme going strong again here today, particularly for Korea. We can see Samsung up, Kioxia as well on those memory tailwinds. Goldman raising its target prices for both of those stocks. LG as well in Korea having around a 30% gain today on news that its chairman is going to be meeting Jensen Huang later this week. And of course, we have the Computex conference kicking off in Taipei with some very bullish AI comments from Nvidia, really driving that sentiment. Here in Japan, we can see that playing out with the fact that SoftBank Group, of course, that investor in OpenAI, has overtaken Toyota's market cap for the first time since the dot-com bubble. SoftBank now worth around 48 trillion yen and Japan's biggest company, all part of the rotation into AI and away from those sort of more traditional manufacturers. And I think this is something that we'll see continuing throughout the week.
Alice, thanks very much for that. Let's get to London now for a look at Europe with Justina Lee. Good morning, Justina.
Good morning, Matt. Now, I've been away for a week, but it seems like it's the same deal or no deal intrigue here. Now, we've had a bit of a consolidation in kind of German short end bond yields, but today they're coming back up with the same concerns about oil, about whether we're going to see that deal. And that also explains some of the moves in currency here today. And we're seeing a bit of a safe haven rally all across the world. Now, what I find really interesting is that it's a completely different narrative in the stock market with the focus on the AI narrative. Now, the problem here is Europe doesn't have that many AI stocks, and that explains why, even though Asian stocks are up, U.S. futures are up, European stocks are still down a little bit today. And if we flip the board here, we're really seeing that reflected in the stock market trends all year round. I mean, European stocks here have really lagged recently because with AI still pushing stocks up recently, I mean, European stocks don't have that source of support. And that's really becoming a problem in this part of the world when it comes to equities.
All right, Justina, thanks very much for that. Let's get a look at what's going on in markets here in the U.S. Justina mentioned that futures are higher, and we see that's true on S&P futures, about 0.25%. NASDAQ futures up a little bit more than 1/3% right now. Russell 2000, the small caps, little change. Taking a look at what's going on with treasuries as well as crude. Those have been so important in the trade lately. 2-year yields up a little bit, just 3 basis points to 403.5. 10-year yields up about 3 basis points as well to 446, 447, and you can see the long bond just under 5 right now. In terms of crude, we do see prices rising, although much lower levels than we've been accustomed to. So NYMEX crude WTI up 3.75% to $90.63 a barrel. Brent crude also gaining right now a little bit more than 3% to $94 a barrel as the price of gold comes down a little at $4,498 a troy ounce. For some of the individual stocks that we're watching, let's get back out to London and Chloe Melee. Chloe?
Good morning, Matt. Wise shares are tumbling this morning after the Bureau of Investigative Journalism reported the company was facing a money laundering investigation with concerns that the money transfer services from Wise were used to launder proceeds from drug trafficking, fraud and corruption. And so as we await more details on this from Wise, we are seeing this really weigh on the stock this morning, down more than 16%. Moving on to Revolution Medicine, which is up this morning very strongly, about 10% after some positive trial data for its pancreatic drug, which nearly doubled the survival rate and also delayed symptoms for months. So this is a big breakthrough for the company, and we are seeing that reflected in this big surge in the shares this morning. And finally, EasyJet is also in the green after receiving takeover interest from the investment firm Castlelake. And EasyJet said that it hasn't had any talks yet with the company, and that it was confident in its strategy, its standalone strategy moving forward. but it seems that investors are actually quite keen on the prospect of a deal, and we're seeing that reflected in those shares, up more than 10% in London this morning.
All right, Chloe, thanks for that. Chloe Melee there in London with a look at some of the individual stock stories that we're watching. Coming up this hour, more on the AI rally with Keith Lerner of Truist and Pascal Cagni, ambassador for international investment at Business France, joins us as President Macron scores over $100 billion in foreign investments, including SoftBank and Salesforce. SoftBank now the largest company in Japan after overtaking Tokyo. But first, Nvidia is breaking into the PC market.
Introducing RTX Spark. Everything we've learned over 33 years distilled into one chip, and in close collaboration with Microsoft, a Windows platform for agents. We're reinventing the personal computer.
Joining us now is Matt Bloxham of Bloomberg Intelligence. Matt, so that little clip there, I guess, made it seem kind of commercial and chintzy. But this is really a huge move, isn't it? Because Nvidia hasn't been dabbling in the PC market for almost a decade.
Yeah, that's right. It's a very significant move, and I guess it just demonstrates that a number of these historically separate markets are starting to collide. You know, we've heard that Intel is getting very much into the GPU market, and Nvidia is going back the other way. So there's going to be a lot more competition across all parts of the technology landscape going forward. And yeah, this is kind of potentially really shake up the PC market. I think initially this is very much positioned at the premium end of the market. So, you know, the volumes might not be that big, but clearly from what Jensen Huang was saying today, that the expectation is that over time they'll be creating new versions of this chip, and it will be expanding into a much broader part of the PC market.
What have PC sales been like, Matt? I mean, for the consumer, you don't really need a PC anymore because your phone can do everything that your laptop or desktop could have done 10 years ago. I guess the business market is the only source of growth?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, the PC market generally has been pretty muted. You know, similar to what we're actually seeing with the smartphone market too. You know, that these are heavily penetrated markets, so you're kind of really, to some degree, relying on the replacement cycle. But the expectation is that AI is kind of instigating a new and faster replacement cycle, because, you know, as AI becomes the de facto way that we do everything, people are going to increasingly realize that actually, you know, the 2 or 3 year old PC or smartphone or tablet they've got doesn't have the processing capability to do what they need it to do, or what they expect it to do with this new software. So I think that's part of the expectation, is we're going to see a new upgrade cycle for PCs.
By the way, SoftBank, we've been talking about a lot today because of the fact that they overtook Toyota as the largest company in Japan, but also together with Salesforce making big investments in France. What do we know?
Yeah, that's right. 2 separate investments, but obviously France in the limelight. So with the SoftBank potentially investing up to 75 billion euros to deploy 5 gigawatts of data center capacity across the region, supporting kind of various different initiatives. That actually, it's a big number, but it actually seems like fairly good value to money based on the kind of pricing we see for gigawatt hyperscaler data centers in the US, which can typically cost maybe $40 to $50 billion. And separately, we've heard from Salesforce that they will make Paris their AI center of excellence, potentially committing, I think, as much as $2 billion to that. So, you know, I think historically Paris has been a very strong platform for the data center market, and it's got a very healthy tech innovation environment, you know, kind of a bit like Silicon Valley or Silicon Roundabout we have here in London. And so I think, you know, to some degree it kind of plays off the back of that, that there is a really thriving technology hub in Paris and France in general. And, you know, they're definitely going to get a boost again from the investments. So I guess probably well played, the French government for convincing these big firms to invest in France over other European countries.
Matt, thanks so much for your time. Matthew Bloxham there of Bloomberg Intelligence. We'll have more on those tech investments in France a little bit later on with Pascal Cagni, Business France ambassador for international investment, later this hour. Over in the Middle East, progress on a deal to extend the U.S.-Iran ceasefire at a standstill. Iran saying it won't back down from new regulations to control ship passage through the Strait of Hormuz, as the U.S. stands firm on insisting free passage for vessels through the waterway. Bloomberg's Oner Ant joins us now out of Dubai with the latest. So, Oner, what do we know about this deal that always seems to be imminent, always a few days away, and never comes?
That's correct, and there's a reason for it, Matt. It seems that the main red lines or main areas of disagreement between the U.S. and Iran remain almost unchanged. We are kind of going through the same cycle over and over again since the ceasefire between the two took hold in mid-April. As things stand now, Iran maintains that it wants to maintain a level of control over Hormuz, and it wants to maintain a nuclear program, as well as an end to the fighting in Lebanon, where Hezbollah, Iran-backed group Hezbollah, and Israel are fighting against each other in a parallel war. And it looks like, but all these three issues remain key areas of disagreements between the two sides, which is why we have yet to see a breakthrough in these talks that are taking place over an alleged memorandum of understanding that could extend the ceasefire by another 2 months, allowing the sides to basically negotiate over these key issues that remain unresolved.
Yeah, Iranian media also reporting that the Iranians expect at least $12 billion in their assets to be unfrozen. What do we know about that and the demands for more money in terms of reparations?
That's a key part of the Iranian negotiating position since the beginning of these negotiations, of these talks with the U.S. But it's difficult to say whether it's a red line. It's one of the key. It is definitely a key demand, but it's difficult to say whether that is one of the sort of areas where Iran does not want to even negotiate. It has kept saying that it wants war reparations, and unfreezing of those funds could be a part of that. But it could also be handled in a different way, because Iran wants to obviously toll ships going through the Hormuz once the conflict comes to an end, and it also has indicated that it sees that also as part of a war reparation mechanism. Now, whether or not more will be, or any of that money will be released, obviously remains to be seen. It's up to President Trump, and that's a key sort of point of leverage that he is holding to sort of encourage the other side to come to terms with, come to terms on some of his key demands, such as the nuclear enrichment issue. But again, as I said, there is no final decision that has been made on this particular issue of unfreezing Iranian funds by the U.S. administration.
Oner, thanks very much. Bloomberg's Oner Ant talking to us about the latest in terms of an extension to the ceasefire. Crude bouncing back from a 6-week low on uncertainties over that deal. You can see that although we're up 4% on WTI and 3 1/3 on Brent, we're still at levels much lower than we've become used to over the past weeks and months. 94.15, the price for Brent. Let's get more with Bloomberg's Will Kennedy. So, Will, these prices seem fairly subdued. Is the market betting that this deal will come soon?
I think the market has been pricing in a resolution, some kind of agreement for some time now. As you said, Matt, prices are low by the standards of what we've seen during this conflict. And I think the thinking is that both sides are working towards a deal, that the president probably needs a deal to get gas prices under control in the run-up to the midterm elections. And so rightly or wrongly, the market is taking a view that it will happen. And that's where we are this morning.
So if we do get an agreement to extend the ceasefire, how much further does the market expect crude to fall?
Well, that's very difficult to say, Matt. Clearly, what's critical to the market is the flow of ships through Hormuz and the rate at which that oil can get out, the rate at which tankers can get in to start loading the oil that's backed up in storage, the rate at which countries like Kuwait and Iraq can restart oil production that's been shut in during the conflict. And traders will be watching that very, very closely to see how quickly things get back to normal. It will be a slow process. It will take weeks and months to unwind the impacts, but that will start to happen quite quickly.
I get it. Obviously, the price is difficult to call out, but that was what I was wondering about, Will. You know, if we get a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, how quickly will prices come down? And I guess that's also a question to which very few people know the answer, if anyone. Will Kennedy is Bloomberg EMEA News Director. Thanks very much for joining us. Let's get on to the other top stories trending on the terminal this morning. Former Fed Chair Jerome Powell says the U.S. Central Bank would lose credibility if any president dismissed Fed officials over policy disagreements. Powell says if one administration starts firing Fed officials, future administrations would do the same, leading to distrust that would hurt the economy. He made those remarks as he accepted the John F. Kennedy Profile in Courage Award in Boston on Sunday for defending the Federal Reserve's independence. Goldman Sachs says hedge funds last week bought U.S. equities at the fastest pace in 6 months. Trading flows were driven by long buys and short covering in a combination of index and exchange-traded fund products. And Hungary plans to amend its constitution to remove President Tamás Szolyak. Viktor Orban loyalist Szolyak refused to resign after Orban's loss. Prime Minister Peter Magyar's Tisza party won a 2/3 majority, enabling it to change the constitution. The ruling party has already filed an amendment to limit the term of prime ministers to 2 4-year mandates. Coming up, the first major acquisition for Greg Abel as Berkshire CEO. We'll discuss his big bet on the housing market and consolidation of the companies under the Berkshire umbrella next. This is Bloomberg. Berkshire Hathaway is set to acquire Taylor Morrison in an all-cash $6.8 billion deal, the first major purchase under new CEO Greg Abel. In a statement, he writes, quote, "Over time, we expect to unify our site-built home building operations into a combined platform, enabling us to deliver the dream of homeownership to more Americans." Joining us now is Manuel Bagori to talk about this. And Manuel, the first interesting thing that I see here is not really the acquisition, but the fact that they're going to combine these assets. Normally, Berkshire allows companies they buy to continue running as separate entities, right?
Indeed, that also caught my eye. That was very interesting, quite remarkable. I think investors are quite intrigued by the fact of this potential departure from Berkshire's traditional strategy of allowing businesses that acquires to run independently. So the fact that Abel may combine the different businesses in home building across the portfolio could potentially also set a path for other sectors and businesses across the different portfolio to also be combined, which is quite interesting. I agree with that. But also it's interesting because it's Abel's first significant acquisition, in fact, since taking over the reins from Buffett. So I think investors were quite keen to see what would be the best significant acquisition for Abel, and also how he decides to put the huge amount of cash that they have, right? So it's almost $400 billion at the end of the first quarter. So that's a huge pile of cash, and it'll be interesting to see how they deploy that capital going forward.
Yeah, it's a massive amount of cash. It bears restating, $400 billion. I mean, this acquisition looks tiny compared to that cash pile. What kind of target could they possibly acquire with that?
Well, Matt, Berkshire is well known for acquiring all sorts of businesses, particularly has an eye for those kind of more traditional, very stable, cash flow generative businesses across industrials and everything that ranges into financial services, as we've seen, and technology and so on and so forth. So it could be really anything globally. But obviously, this is a significant one, the biggest seen the transaction, almost $10 billion for Oxychem, just completed in January. So it's definitely a good one to set up for Abel.
Got it. Manuel, thanks so much for joining us. Bloomberg's Manuel Bagori. This is Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Brief. I'm Matt Miller in New York. Time now for your front page news. First up on the Wall Street Journal, questions surrounding the results of President Trump's physical exam. The Journal says the White House memo lacks detail on tests assessing his cardiovascular health. Next up, the New York Times reporting that President Trump's upheaval of the government has led to an exodus of more than 10,000 lawyers since the beginning of 2025. The Times says many of those looking for work have gone to offices of Democratic state attorneys and nonprofits challenging Trump administration's policies in court. And finally, the Financial Times reporting that economists don't expect the Iran war-driven inflation shock to be as severe as it was during the 2022 energy crisis. FT analysis shows that inflation projections have increased by 0.8% on average since the conflict began, far below the 2.3% average in the months following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is Bloomberg. It is 5:30 a.m. in New York City, 10:30 in London. Good morning. I'm Matt Miller in for Bonnie Quinn with your Bloomberg Brief. Let's get you set up for the day. Futures pushing higher after U.S. stocks notched another fresh record high ahead of Friday's payrolls report. That's as the AI rally presses on, with Nvidia entering the PC market to challenge Intel, and oil also gains as the U.S. and Iran clash near the Strait of Hormuz, with the nuclear deal still in deadlock, though the prices on oil are much lower than we've become accustomed to. Take a look at the futures picture first in terms of S&P futures and NASDAQ futures, looking at gains of 0.2% again after record highs and 9 consecutive weeks of equity indexes rising. Treasuries are adding a couple basis points to yields right now, but still far below what we saw at the beginning of last week. So for spot 0.35 on the 2-year, the 10-year at 4.47 essentially, and the 30-year just under 5%. Remember, a couple weeks ago, the 10-year was over 4.65. Take a look at oil. We had become used to $100 plus prices, and now $91 on NYMEX crude is a gain of 3.69. Brent up 3.24, but only to 94.36. Gold coming down a bit at just under $4,500 per troy ounce. Let's get a look at some of the individual stock stories we're following for you this morning. For that, we go to London and Chloe Mealy. Good morning, Chloe.
Good morning, Matt. We've seen Taylor Morrison shares soaring this morning after getting bought by Berkshire Hathaway in this $6.8 billion deal. So this is the first big purchase under the new Berkshire CEO, and it's seen as really a vote of confidence in the U.S. housing market. And so we are seeing shares up more than 21% this morning. So big mover there. Another big mover is Revolution Medicines, which has some positive trial results for its pancreatic cancer drug. And so the drug delayed symptoms for months and was also able to double the rate of survival. So this is a big breakthrough for patients, of course, a big breakthrough for the company itself. And we're seeing that reflected in those shares this morning, up almost 8% for the pharma company. And finally, EasyJet is also in the green after receiving some takeover interest from the investment firm Castlelake. And EasyJet has said it has not engaged yet in any talks with the company. It is confident in its own strategy. But it seems, as we can see from the share price, that investors are potentially quite keen on the deal happening, especially given the weakness recently in the EasyJet share price and the fact that some analysts are saying that Castlelake is actually quite a credible potential suitor. So definitely a saga to keep an eye on as we move forward.
All right, Chloe, thanks very much. Chloe Mealy there with a look at some of the individual stock stories we're following for you. Futures, as we just showed you, pointing higher. The S&P 500 posted 11 record closes in May. That's as investors await the next jobs report this Friday. Joining us now is Keith Lerner, CIO and Chief Market Strategist at Truist. And Keith, as I was saying, 9 consecutive weeks of gains. The path has been simply up, up, up. What could stop this?
Yeah, well, great to start the week with you, Matt. All in all, we still think the bull market deserves the benefit of the doubt. Is it going to be as a straight line as it has been recently? Obviously, probably not. But I will give you an interesting stat to start the week, since you mentioned the 9-week winning streak. We looked back since 1950 and looked at how often has this occurred, and there's been 10 other times since 1950. And when you look a year later, 8 out of 10 times the market has been up with low double-digit gains as the average. I will say, though, when you look at the next week, you've only been up 3 out of 10 times. So, the odds are actually against the market a little bit this week. But overall, when you see underlying momentum like this, especially as it's supported by earnings, I think as we look out as an investor over the next year, it's still a good underlying sign.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that major concerns are higher rates and higher oil prices, but those, as we just showed you, look really subdued right now.
Yeah, listen, the market has, at this point, it's come to grips with the belief of the outcome is around the Middle East. And, the market is certainly expecting some type of agreement. I will say, as we step back, you noted this early in the program, Matt, it's all about AI. And, we often talk about that every bull market cycle has a dominant theme. And we know this one is AI. That's been something we've talked about the last couple of years. But I don't know that people understand how much this AI is dominating kind of global markets. So in the U.S., we're just doing a study right now, 70% of the gains in the S&P is related to the tech sector. If you go to emerging markets, that's over 95%. And even something that's probably under the radar, small cap returns, almost 40% of small cap returns in the U.S. are related to the tech sector specifically, because in small cap tech, it's up 50% this year.
How broad, though, has this rally been? I saw a stat a few weeks ago that 7 out of the 11 industry groups on the S&P had expanded margins. Of course, earnings season has been pretty spectacular with double-digit gains, but there's a lot of concern that that's concentrated. How do you look at it?
It is concentrated because of that tech factor that I just mentioned. But I will say, as we sit here this morning, and we look at markets, we see the S&P at record highs, emerging markets at record highs, small caps, mid caps, the equal weight index at record highs as well. And then as we look under the hood and say what's happening there, we are seeing forward earning estimates for each of those indices that I just mentioned also at record highs. So I will say within the S&P, you only have about 60% of stocks up this year in the index. So there's definitely some bifurcation underneath the surface, especially some of the areas that are getting hit, like retail underneath the surface. But all in all, I think it's maybe a little bit broader than people give it credit for, given what I just mentioned as how many of these indices are at record highs.
I notice you have a modest U.S. equity bias. Last year, the outperformance of indexes abroad was pretty striking. Is that an anomaly?
Well, I think on the margin, I think you have somewhat better activity for global markets in general. But we've been Team USA for a long time. That's where we still see the strongest earnings momentum in the globe. The one thing we did earlier this year was we did upgrade emerging markets, because after a decade of almost doing nothing, it finally broke out on an absolute and a relative basis. And the earning trends, at least on a short-term basis, are actually even stronger there. We all know the reasons why, because of the semiconductor stocks there. But I would say the way we're approaching it is still lean with the U.S., a little bit more favorable on emerging markets. I think developed markets is where we're seeing a little bit more of challenges related to this, this higher oil prices and somewhat weaker growth at the same time. Central banks are looking to actually increase rates.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk in a moment about France and Europe as SoftBank invests in the AI economy there. But I wonder how much of a problem the lack of energy sources is for a lot of the EU bloc. Yeah,
well, one, as I mentioned, the GDP estimates are starting to come down since this Middle East tensions broke out. And again, the mandate over there is for central banks is focused on inflation as opposed to the U.S., which has that dual mandate. So I think that's somewhat of a constraint. The other thing, going back to this AI theme, and you also mentioned this before, that same study that we're looking at, tech has actually done pretty well in Europe and internationally. The problem is it's not a big enough part of the index. So that's why partly why we're seeing those indices somewhat underperform. I mean, Japan's acting somewhat better here recently, but all in all, I think the U.S. and even emerging markets are still a better place on a relative basis. You're really going to need economic growth to really pick up to see Europe and some of these other areas outperform, which are more cyclically based, less technology focused.
All right, Keith, great to spend some time with you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us so early. Keith Lerner, the CIO and Chief Market Strategist over at Truist. Let's get to some of the other top stories trending on the Bloomberg terminal this morning. President Trump says talks with Iran over an interim deal will work out well. In a Truth Social post, he said constant speculation over whether he'll agree to a deal, should agree to a deal or not, isn't helping. Berkshire Hathaway will buy Taylor Morrison Home for $6.8 billion, and it's an all-cash deal, and it is Berkshire's largest since it bought Oxy's petrochemical business in January. It's the first major acquisition under the CEO, Greg Abel. SoftBank is now Japan's most valuable company, overtaking Toyota. Shares jumped 14% Monday. The AI boom has pushed SoftBank shares up 90% this year, while pressure on automakers has caused Toyota shares to fall 10% in the same period. Coming up, President Macron scores over $100 billion in foreign investment pledges with a heavy emphasis on AI. We'll speak to Pascal Cagni, French ambassador for international investment at Business France next. This is Bloomberg.
Introducing RTX Spark. Everything we've learned over 33 years distilled into one chip. And in close collaboration with Microsoft, a Windows platform for agents. We're reinventing the personal computer.
Nvidia is taking on the PC market, ready to compete with Intel and AMD by modernizing laptops for the AI era. Let's bring in Bloomberg's Mark Bergen for more. Mark?
Yeah, this is Nvidia's second attempt. You know, they tried this a decade ago. As we wrote, it kind of fizzled out. Obviously, they're an incredibly different company coming in this kind of post-ChatGPT era, and they are dominant in the data center business. I think for the investors, this is a diversification that they're really excited about. They're really looking, concerned. The chief concern for Nvidia here is that some of their biggest customers, like Google and Amazon, are working on direct competitors to their AI accelerators and data centers. So this shows if they can successfully expand in the PC market, that gives them a lot of strengths in case that Google and Amazon continue on their tail.
Hey, Mark, SoftBank and Salesforce both making big investments in France. What do we know about that?
Yeah, I mean, SoftBank is huge. I think the number we saw was close to $87 billion US dollars. This is Masayoshi Son, the chairman, has made this a priority. I think the devil's in the details here. These that we're talking about from the announcement over the weekend is data centers with, I think, 5 gigawatts of capacity. That is huge. Something approaching what we have in the U.S. with the Stargate project with OpenAI and SoftBank there. Big opportunity for France, leaning in on its nuclear energy. Macron has been pushing this idea that France does have an advantage around energy pricing to develop these, basically become the infrastructure leader across Europe. And these projects would make the France by far much bigger than anywhere else across the continent.
All right, Mark, thanks very much. Bloomberg's Mark Bergen reporting out of London. Let's talk more about what's going on in France now to bring in more AI investments. Pascal Cagni of Business France joins us. He's French ambassador for international investment, appointed by President Emmanuel Macron. He is also the president of C4 Industries. So, Pascal, thank you for your time this morning. It's a huge investment in what's been called, I guess, the Silicon Valley of Europe. Tell us about what you expect this to bring to France and to the EU.
You need to understand this is actually the 8th consecutive year that we have the Choose France Summit here in Versailles. And really, it's a real fireworks of announcement in the sense that we've got in excess of 93 billions of investments. We are counting only 45 billions for the SoftBank announcement on the 3 gigabyte and not the 5 gigabyte that you were mentioning. It's huge for us because we have also a side of the data centers, many of other investments which are validating the old strategy of pro-business that France has been demonstrating. We've got, as this mentioned, the Salesforce, the Oracle, the Databricks, all investing here together with the MJX of this world. So we are very, very pleased, welcoming 200 CEOs of the Fortune 500 here, in excess of 400 meetings with our ministers. So this is something that we've been doing extremely well. And remember that SoftBank announcement is really by a long shot the biggest ever announcement in Europe. So we can only be pleased.
Pascal, here in the U.S., we're continually reminded that demand is still much higher than supply. In data centers, we're rushing to build them around the country to meet the incredible demand that we've seen for AI. Is it the same in France? Is it the same in Europe that consumers and businesses are using this technology at a pace we couldn't have imagined?
The truth of the matter, the adoption rate has been never seen. We are most likely slightly behind the US, as it has been for the last 2 or 3 decades. But the fact that you need to really get is that France is exporting 19 terabytes of energy, of electricity. And that gives us an amazing, compelling advantage to attract and continue to attract all of these data centers. And it's not only about data centers. We're also trying basically to get the whole stack of the value chain into the AI, with having our local champion Mistral, with EMI Labs, but as well having new processors, new motherboards, the ability to build all of that and to do all of that into a concept which is carbon neutral, which is very, very important. So we are using our USP, our nuclear energy. 95% of our total energy is renewable, right? To basically try to create a lead and attract Sun and SoftBank, but many others.
We have had in the U.S. serious social concerns about the price of energy being driven higher by data centers, local residents around those areas being forced to pay much bigger bills. How do you deal with that in France?
Remember, because we have a real excess of energy, 90 terawatt of data that we're exporting, that's not going to happen. We've got also a mechanism to guarantee continuous energy, both to the business and to the residentials. So this is not something which has hurt at all the mindset of the people. The social risk that we can expect, if anything, will be about the consequences of AI that no one is really able to tell about. For the time being, we're very satisfied by what we're offering. We've got also the large names like Salesforce, Oracle, Databricks, which are putting their AI centers into Paris, which is really becoming the continental hub for AI. So this, plus other announcement in more traditional industry, is making these Choose France editions in Versailles an absolute success.
Can this kind of investment be large enough to affect the growth trajectory of France? Do you expect AI to help boost growth? Because that's been a problem that market watchers have noted. For example, we just spoke with Keith Lerner, and he said growth is slower in Europe, and you may have to raise rates at the ECB as well.
You're absolutely right. The growth has been lower. We haven't embraced the previous revolution, being the PC, the internet, the mobile, the same way we should have done. This is our chance to go back in the race. And President Macron has been playing a critical role in explaining that to my fellow citizens, but also at a European level, which is now why we believe that AI could extract a massive productivity gain from the 24% of the industrial throughput that Europe represents on a worldwide basis. If we're able to do that, we'll be able to bear the cost of a social welfare, the cost also of maybe too much bureaucratic or tax-based mindsets. But again, it's a big bet that we're doing. Right now, it seems to work. The adoption is strong. We attract talents. We're able to fix on the territory these data centers and all the value chains. The future will tell us. For the time being, let's take stock of what we've been doing and achieving to date, which is huge, right? This is 93 billions. You understand this is more than the 7 previous editions of the Choose France Forum. So let's celebrate.
Can I ask an economic question of you, Pascal? Because although you have cheap renewable energy to help power this kind of growth. And you've got an incredible investment announcement to talk about today. Isabel Schnabel of the European Central Bank has brought up inflation concerns. And to those, the French are not immune, right? A lot of this stemming from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz after the U.S. invaded Iran. Are you concerned about inflation? Can you feel it in France? And could it become unanchored?
We felt it, but like in the past, at the time of the Ukraine war and the explosions of the energy price, we have been, if not immune, somewhat protected from the peak of inflation seen in the US or in the United Kingdom, for example, is linked to the fact that our energy prices are actually competitive. Once this is said, we've got too much of high inflations with a GDP growth which has not been satisfying. Remember, we've got Hormuz, we've got Ukraine, we've got an overall trade concern with the tariff kicking in finally after a year and a half being implemented. So I'm not going to tell you that the horizons is totally immune of concerns, but all in all, when it's related to the ability of a given country of 75 million inhabitants to basically embrace the AI revolutions, to also take full benefit of the new space, to also really take benefit of what's happening in the health areas where we got in excess of 15 announcements during these shows, I think we do part of the job. So let's not be overly optimistic. Let's realize that inflation is essentially present. That's why we need to have a resolution to Hormuz Strait basically challenger.
Pascal, great to get some time with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Pascal Cagni there of Business France, talking about a massive investment, SoftBank and others putting in more than $100 billion, 93 billion euros of AI investment into France. Coming up, we're going to get you set up for your trading week. This is Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Brief. I'm Matt Miller in New York. Let's get a look at what's ahead this week. First up, JOLTS data is coming out on Tuesday. We'll be watching that closely ahead of non-farm payrolls. Then earnings from Broadcom, importantly, as well as Macy's on Wednesday. We wrap up the week with that non-farm payrolls report, the May jobs report coming out on Friday. We'll be watching it very closely as well. In terms of what's going on in the markets this morning, Nvidia, after launching a chip for the PC market, up 1.7%. Because it's a more than $5 billion stock, that is going to move the market on its own higher. We have Berkshire Hathaway buying Taylor Morrison for $6.8 billion. That's a 24% premium to Friday's closing price, so you're going to see likely that kind of gain today. And Hewlett-Packard Enterprise higher ahead of earnings today. They come out, though, after the market closes, so watch for them at 4 p.m. with Romaine and Katie. That's it for me. Surveillance is up next. This is Bloomberg.